Hello! Hi everybody, my name is Mark. This is Why Hit the World, What's Happening. Excuse me if you hear fans and stuff going off in the background here, but it is weird and hot and stuffy here in Southern California. Mostly a beautiful day though, I must say. So, yeah, I gotta have the fans on or else it gets really hot back here. And if I turn the air conditioning on, it'll sound even worse. So, anyway, how you doing? How you doing, Lewis? Thank you for joining, and everybody else who's out there. And today we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So let me just pull up my notes. And let's see, where is it? There we go. So, first off, before we get started, let's take a look at what we're working on. I think this will probably be it for this particular piece. I think we'll do some stuff on the background here, maybe add a few, clean up the floor a little bit. But as far as maybe add a few like highlights, but I think it's actually looking pretty good, don't you think? Kind of our Monster High School reunion thing. So, this will probably be the last stream working on this particular piece. Anyway, let's see here. Let's find the right layer. Nope. This layer, that layer. Okay. Anyway, so my stream today is called Nope, America is Still Racist. And mainly there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about today having to do with race and racism and what racism actually is and some of the effects of it on, our modern, in modern America. Right. So there were a couple of news stories that that happened, this last week or so that kind of caught my eye that I wanted to comment on. First one was the story of Gwen Berry. So hang on one second, guys. Let me just open up this folder here, and then I had let's see, downloads, blah blah blah, and then this is my wife's computer, so it's all weird and screwed up. Go to this PC downloads, thank you. No, I want, wow, what the fuck, why did that, so I just copied a bunch of pictures, but for some reason I can't see my pictures. So why is this? This does not make any sense. Shit. Did I just totally lose them? They're in like a different place that I don't know where they are now. Anyway, let me see here. Sorry guys, give me 1 second here. I just wanna, I copied a bunch of pictures. This PC pictures. Okay, it's under pictures. Alright, god damn it. So, see, this is not this is like my wife's computer that I use for the streaming, so I don't know where anything is. Right, okay, there we go, found it. Anyway, so there were a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, that happened in the news. Actually, first let's start off with something funny. So, something to kind of lighten the mood up before we get into the heavy stuff. And this is the story of Gettr. So if you guys know what Gettr is, it's basically the Trump team made their own Twitter ripoff called Gettr. And the name Gettr apparently comes from, get her. So it comes from throwing Hillary Clinton in jail. Gettr. Yeah, get it? Makes sense, right? So yeah, that's where they got the name for it from. And it launched this last week and immediately turned into a farce. And apparently hundreds, if not thousands of people went on there and started spreading around Sonic the Hedgehog porn, which is like, I knew Sonic the Hedgehog had had a very rabid fan base. Some of them who were into very bizarre things. I never knew the depths of depravity that some of Sonic fan base was engaged in. Which I thought the shit was funny. Um, so just to kind of show you guys, here's a couple of the more safe for work things that, alright, come on. Come on, generate. There we go. Here's a few of the more safe for work images that we got. Right. This people spreading, basically using this Twitter ripoff to spread things like this. Fat Sonic. Here's another one. You know, a couple of posts here of Sonic foot pics and that kind of thing. And then other people saying, stop posting Sonic porn. I thought that shit was hilarious. If you'll notice, this particular post is by Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. So yeah, yeah, I guess what happened is as soon as Getter went live, everybody went on and started grabbing all of the, you know, accounts for famous conservative celebrities and such. And, you know, there was another one for Mel Gibson, and then there was one, it's like somebody grabbed, the guy, what's his name, Charlie Kirk from fucking, you know, Turning Point USA and all that shit. They've just been posting, like, really bizarre, funny things, you know, basically Sonic the Hedgehog foot fetish pics and shit like that. I just thought that was hilarious. I thought that was funny as hell. So, I guess Lewis the Hedgehog, yeah. Sonic is always fighting for freedom. Some Sonic fans are some of the most pathetic people I've ever seen. Yeah, I guess you would know, right? I guess you would know about this, the dark underbelly of Sonic fandom, right? So that's some funny stuff, man. Anyway, something a little lighter to start off with. But one of the subjects I also wanted to talk about was Gwen Berry. So, Gwen Berry is an Olympic athlete, and she was in the news for 15 minutes. Whoa, what happened? Why did that get so... Oh, it's because I'm way off to the side. All right. How did that happen? I don't know how that... Oh, you know what it was? I touched this little bar at the bottom, and it, like, dragged it over to the left. Anyway, Gwen Berry is an Olympic athlete who, you know, they're doing the qualifying rounds to be in the Summer Olympics in Tokyo next month. And she is a hammer thrower, and she qualified. So she ranked third, which qualifies, which means she gets to compete in the Olympics. And she had her 15 minutes of fame this last week when, as she was on the podium, they started to play the national anthem, and she kind of turned her back on it, and then, you know, did a protest, right? And the thing about it is that, you know, she put a T-shirt on that said it had some kind of message. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a, you know, basically saying that she was doing a protest, right? And this, of course, drived all of the conservatives and, you know, family values types and stuff like that, and the Ben Shapiros and the Charlie Kirks and all those people drove them completely bananas and up the wall, you know. Kind of reminds me of Colin Kaepernick, if you remember him from a few years back, the FBI, the NFL guy who kneeled during the national anthem as a form of peaceful protest, and that kind of spread around and created a lot of controversy and stuff. And yeah, so right now the conservatives and the chuds and the you know, MAGA people and all that are going absolutely bananas over Gwen Berry. You know, and I just think this shit's funny because, you know, if you remember, like, all during the last year, here's a couple of tweets from people, we'll get to that in a minute, but all during the last year of, you know, the BLM protests and the George Floyd protests and stuff like that, one thing that you would hear from the conservatives is that, you know, you need to peacefully protest, right? And, you know, this is not peaceful protest. The Constitution only protects peaceful protest, whatever, blah, 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 right? Well, this is kind of what happens when when somebody engages in a peaceful protest who happens to be of the wrong skin color, you know. Um, that's basically it. It really doesn't seem to do anything except piss people off. And instead of, instead of all the conservative people putting their money where their mouth is and standing up for somebody's right for free speech, like they always say they do, that's one thing that they all claim. Yeah, we love free speech, and I don't support what you say, but I will die to defend your right to say it. Blah 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 blah. In real life, whenever that actually happens, time and time again, they all demonstrate that that's a complete and total lie. You know. So just to give a couple of things, here's some reactions I saw on Twitter about Gwen Berry. This is from somebody named Deborah Renee. Let's zoom in on that. Right. Just some random Twitter user. I believe Gwen Berry, our Olympic athlete, should be removed from the team. An American representing America and disrespects our flag should not be representing us as a nation. And America, all right, so this is what kind of caught my eye here. First off, the idea that you should be kicked off of the team for your free speech. Right. That was the first thing that kind of got me. It's like, there's nothing more American than free speech. Arguably that is the number one, even more, the number one trait that defines America. In the American mythos, it's the idea that you have the freedom of speech, the First Amendment. The First Amendment is even more well known and publicized and celebrated than the Second Amendment. Although, conservatives would have that, have you believe it should be the other way around. Right. So that's the first thing. It's not like Olympic athletes have never had these types of protests before. If you remember back in the 60s, there was a whole thing where, what was it, 1968 Olympics, I think, where the, track and field runners were, like, giving a Black Power salute, right, while they were getting their medals, that was, so it's not like this isn't, like, it's not like this has never happened before in the past. There's kind of been a tradition of people using the Olympics to protest things, especially African Americans. The second thing that kind of got me here, where she says here, an American representing America, and disrespect their flag, right? Like, that's what kind of got me here. It's like basically implying that Gwen Berry is not American, right? That's kind of what, it's very, I don't know, this person's sentence structure is a little screwed up, and I don't think it kind of came out the way she wanted it to sound, but that's what it kind of sounds like to me, is that there should be, an American should represent America, and not someone not disrespecting our flag or whatever. So this really, the reason why I chose this tweet from just some random person, I mean, at least I think she is, I don't know, maybe she's a journalist or something, is because 90% of the tweets I saw with this had this same general tone, this same general message. If you disrespect the flag, you're not American, right? And you should basically not have freedom of speech if you're in the Olympics. That was 90% of the tweets I saw were like this. And it's like, the thing is, both of those are fundamentally like, what it means to be an American is, having freedom of speech, right? In pretty much any aspect of life. Please forgive the helicopter flying by, right? So I guess it's only freedom. It's only free speech when conservatives like what you have to say. Here's another one. Then most of the other tweets I saw were just very vicious, calling Gwen Berry names. Here's another one from somebody I don't even know. Fugly inside it out. Team USA dumper. She's not gold medal material. Just, most of the tweets I got were just this sort of like, angry people calling her names, calling her ugly, stuff like that. Here's somebody who really, really seems to not like Gwen Berry very much, named Hope. Loser, that's all you will ever be, bitch. Capital letters there. Hope really seems to not like Gwen Berry because she posted again, right? You're so fucking ugly with your tacky style, bitch, and you know what? I'm black. Hope does not seem to look black to me. I don't know. Doesn't look like a black person to me. Kind of looks like she's white. Kind of looks like she's lying her ass off and she's just like, racist and jealous. That was, those were like kind of, and that's the thing. I chose those four tweets kind of jumped out at me. Right. But basically, as I'm going through, pretty much every single one of them was like that. And it's very just sort of like, occasionally, like maybe 1 in 20 would be somebody who supported her, you know? So yeah, I know that Twitter is not a good measure of the attitudes of the average American. To be honest, I don't think the average American even paid attention to the story or even gives a shit, because how many people out there really, I mean, hammer throwing in the Olympics, like, who really gives a fuck? Do you really watch hammer throwing? Like, I mean, not really, You know what I watch in the Olympics? I watch gymnastics because that shit is amazing. Like, gymnastics where they just fly around and it's like, they're like superhuman almost, especially like there'll be like these little like 14-year-old Russian girls who just like fly through the air and it's like absolutely amazing kind of just to imagine that like a human being can like fucking do shit like that. So I watch that and I'll watch the opening ceremonies or something if I'm in the mood. But really like hammer throwing, like do you really think most people in the country even give a fuck that this even happened? And that's kind of why it jumps out at me. It's like the conservatives in this country are really, really, really searching for something to get pissed off about. You know what I mean? Because they don't really have anything. They don't have anything that they can get mad at. Not really, because the country, like the government right now, is actually being run rather well. No thanks to them. Right? The things that the Democrats want to pass, like things like the voting rights, the voting rights bill that they have, and like stimulus checks and the infrastructure bill, stuff like that. These are all very popular pieces of legislation. All these things that they're basically standing against, voting against, stuff like that. They know that they're in a pretty precarious situation, and if they don't get a hold of the narrative once, once the elections come around a year and a half from now, they're going to be up shit creek. And so they're kind of throwing everything they have at the wall just to see what sticks. And it sort of seems like what's actually stuck is critical race theory. That seems to be the thing that's stuck. That's what's getting people pissed off. That's what's getting the soccer moms and stuff to come out and yell at people at school board meetings and that kind of thing. Right. But it really is like, it's like that's what they're doing. They're just basically like reverting back to like the most base racist kind of, you know, um, like base cruel and racist impulses that they have to try to harvest that white rage so that when the election comes people can get mad at something. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was I thought that shit was kind of like, I don't know. It just really kind of gets me, man. It's really like you see shit like this and you're like, you know, this is a person that's peacefully protesting. That's what peaceful protesting actually looks like. Doing something like this, not putting your hand over your heart and crying during the fucking national anthem doesn't hurt anybody, you know. It doesn't burn down any buildings. It doesn't, cause any riots, right? There's a world of difference between that and, like, say, I don't know, showing up at a protest with a gun and shooting 3 people and then, having the cops fucking, like, not even arrest you for it. You know what I mean? Like conservative peaceful protests. When you talk about peaceful protests, right, and conservatives are always saying, yeah, like you should have to, BLM was not a peaceful protest, blah, blah, blah. When conservatives peaceful protest, they show up with weapons, You know, they take over, like, for example, in Michigan last year, where, like, those fucking psychopaths showed up and took over the building armed with AR-14, 15s and shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's how conservatives peacefully protest. And it's just like, it's just real, you know, nobody seemed to, you didn't see people on Twitter calling them fucking ugly. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. It just kind of really gets me, and I think it's worth talking about. It's worth talking about, and it's worth bringing it up to kind of show the hypocrisy, right, involved here, because it's, you know, one thing we always got to remember is that, you know, these people are disingenuous, right? They don't really care. That's the thing. It's like nobody really actually cares about Gwen Berry. Nobody actually really cares about who she is or what she has to say. And, you know, it's already been a week and the story's out of the news and her 15 minutes of fame are essentially up. They only, you know, they're basically just using her to, you know, fight the culture war. That's all it really is. So people like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and, you know, Paul fucking Joseph Watson or whatever that fucking moron's name is, like, they don't actually give a fuck about any of these issues. Not really. It's just another thing that they can use to rile people up and get ratings. And you know, the more people get angry, the more people go and consume their content, you know, and the more money they make, and that's really all it is. And I think this next thing I'm going to talk about kind of exemplifies that a lot, you know. So I want to talk about here, let's see, oh yeah, one more thing before we go on. You know, apparently Gwen Berry has a history of racially charged jokes and stuff like that. Before we move on, let's just one more thing about Gwen Berry. Yeah, so here's a article from the Daily Mail, right? Whoa. And I want to show you guys, first off, this is the Daily Mail. Look how many frickin' ads there are. It tried to download some shit to my computer here. Right? So the Daily Mail is a frickin' cesspool to begin with. Like, look at this. This reminds me of Ready Player One. Like, look at that. Like, this, see here? This is the actual article sandwiched in between, like, so many frickin' ads. Fuck off. You know, little things and ads and videos that just instantly pop up and all this shit. Anyway, so apparently about Gwen Berry, they decided to, you know, the conservative hate machines decided to do some digging on her, and they pulled up some tweets that she did. Now look at this headline. Flag snubbing activist athlete Gwen Berry's history of racially charged rape jokes and tweets mocking white, Mexican, and Asian people. Right? So let's just look at the tweets themselves, because the Daily Mail is complete and total. It's a cesspool. It's a fucking, you know, one step above the National Enquirer. In fact, it might even be worse than National Enquirer. Here are the tweets that Gwen Berry did about, what? This is almost a decade ago. Right, so she was like, what? Fucking 15 or some shit like that. You know, 18. Right. I'm about to rape my lunch. So, alright, shout out to all the females that are gonna get drunk, get wrecked by 4 dudes, and then cry rape this weekend. Mexicans just don't care about people. What is all this shit that pops up? It's like, god damn, this is... How did people even go on a site like this? This is like vomit-inducing. There's so much, like, distraction. Just saw this girl wearing heels and white socks. What the hell? Hashtag Chinese people always try to start new trends. Shake my head, girl. Do those seem like racist tweets to you? You know? First off, let's address the rape jokes here. Personally, myself, I don't see anything wrong with a rape joke. I'm about to rape my lunch. That's, might be a little tasteless to someone who's a rape survivor, right? But what's really wrong? I mean, so she was like an edgy young woman, you know. People say shit like this all the time. I mean, You know, I don't know if you remember about 2012 or so, but that was kind of part of the normal vernacular. You know, people would say they would use the word rape when they beat you at like a video game or something. You know. And yeah, maybe it's been, you know, maybe things have changed a little bit because of, over the last I guess it's been 9 years now, right? Maybe that's something that has, the language has changed since then. Hey, this isn't like playing like music and shit, is it? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like audio coming through this fucking abortion of a website here. But, still, it's like I'm about to rape my lunch. That's not like, she's not making fun of rape victims. She's not belittling the act of rape. She's not, you know what I mean? Seriously, she's about to like ravishly eat her lunch there. I don't know. Just not offensive is what I could say. And then, something like this, we don't know the context behind this one. Mexicans just don't care about people. And then she's crying, but laughing. So we could find out the actual context behind that. Maybe she was responding to a funny joke or something. Who knows? Right. Maybe she was responding to a joke about Mexicans, and maybe that was racist. We don't know the context of it. So just something to remember when you see shit like this. Yeah, here's some more tweets here. She says some things about white people here. White people are so retarded when they are drunk. Well, that's kind of true. These white children freaking themselves right out of this Dairy Queen line. Probably responding to a video of kids in line at Dairy Queen doing bad things. See, the thing is, if you look at these, I mean, I'm partially a white person. Am I offended by any of this? Is there really any white person out there who isn't a white nationalist who's offended by shit like this? No, right? Because it doesn't hurt. It's not harmful. It's like, when they talk about punching up and punching down, and usually, yeah, that's bullshit when you punch up in a negative way. That's bad. But when you post a fucking a tweet about like a white girl's butt, she's got a nice ass body for a white girl. Like, what's wrong? See, that's the thing. It's like, it's basically just them trying to dig up any dirt they can on Gwen Berry, and they probably looked into her background, probably trying to find a conviction for something, see if she was like in trouble with the law or whatever. Probably couldn't find that, and the worst they could find was some tweets that are virtually indistinguishable from like 99% of everything that every other black person says on Twitter. It's like, there's a thing. I need to get a drink. Hang on a second. Let me just I got my little fridge back here. Right. In fact, I'm going to have me, this. Okay. Sorry. It's all like very kind of humid and hot and humid where I am right now. Like, anyway, yeah, it's, seriously, let's turn this fucking ridiculous website off. It's just so, God, that shit was giving me a headache. Just the design of it. But yeah, you gotta remember, it's like they basically just try to find any dirt they could on her, And that kind of reminds me a lot of, like, say when there's like a police shooting or something. You ever notice, like, whenever there's a police shooting, especially whenever an unarmed black person gets shot by a white person, whether it's a cop or not even a cop sometimes, even if you remember Trayvon Martin, like George Zimmerman was not a police officer, but he shoots Trayvon Martin. And during that case, like all these like pictures of Trayvon Martin came out, like they showed all these basically Twitter, not Twitter, but they were like Facebook pictures of him like dressing up like a gangster trying to act tough. Taking like photos of him like, looking tough, right? Which is like something that every single teenage boy on the face of the earth does. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I tried to like look like I was tough. When I was like 15 and shit. Because that's what 15-year-old boys do. They want to be men. Right? They want to look hard, They want to like pretend that they're dangerous and shit because they think that's gonna get them girls, right? And that's what Trayvon Martin. And then they post these pictures all over, like, you know, these pictures of him like posing, you know, all over fucking Fox News and shit, and try to make him look like he's some kind of criminal. And it's like, this is what it reminds me of. Okay, well, they couldn't really find anything on Gwen Berry. They couldn't find any like convictions, or they couldn't find any like drug possessions or anything like that. Didn't have a criminal record. Wasn't a fucking like dropout. You know, was actually like a successful fucking Olympic level athlete. Couldn't find anything to talk shit about her except for some tweets that she made like a decade ago. So they're gonna cancel her. They're gonna cancel her over shit that isn't even like offensive. It's just kind of blows me away, you know, like all the stuff that you hear about conservatives and cancel culture. Yeah, they complain, they bitch and they moan and they complain about cancel culture, except when it's like they're the ones using it to fucking cancel people with. There we go. That's the one. Right. So that's kind of just ridiculous and fucking stupid. And wanted to comment on that before we moved on, you know. Let's see. So, what was I talking about here? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, lots of comments from various conservative pundits and things about that. But as I was saying before, they, really don't give a shit about any of that stuff, right? And it really is just there to be taken advantage of. You know what? We need to make these cracks smaller. They're too big. And I think this next thing I want to talk about kind of exemplifies that idea. That idea that conservative pundits just sort of use these things to rile up their base, to make money, and in real life they don't actually care about any of these subjects, you know? And the next thing I'm going to talk about is about a guy named Ollie London. Right, so if you don't know who Ollie London is, this is Ollie London. Okay, let me just make sure that this thing does not post any, So this is Newsweek, right? Let's make sure that Newsweek doesn't actually start posting any fucking, like, noise. You notice Newsweek it still has ads, but it doesn't have 5,000 ads like fucking that other website did. Anyway, this is Ollie London, a British-born influencer from London, right? And Ollie London really, really, really likes K-pop. Okay, so, oh my god, fuck off. Okay, this is almost as bad as the Daily Mail, but not as bad. Go away. Okay. No, fuck you! Alright, because I tried to stop it. God damn, what a pain in the ass. It's like you try to stop the fucking ad. See, if I just get, like, ad blocker, then it won't even, like, open. That's the shitty thing. So it's like you have to look, if you want to look at the fucking article, you have to see the ads. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess they got to make money somehow, so I don't really care about that. Anyway, Ollie London is an influencer, which I guess they just post on, Instagram and shit like that and make money. And Ollie London really, really, really wants to be Korean. So Ollie London went and got multiple surgeries to look like a K-pop idol, Jimin of BTS. Which apparently BTS is like the most famous K-pop band in the world now. I don't even know. I don't even know the kind of the shit that young people listen to nowadays. Right. So you can kind of see, I'm not going to click on any of these videos or anything, but, Ollie London here got the eye surgery to look more Asian. And then there's some more pictures down here of a picture of the actual guy that he's trying to look like. So Ollie London is trying to look like this Korean pop star. Right. And lots of people have come out against them because, this is like another racialism thing, right? So, yeah, very kind of interesting. It reminds me a lot of, if you remember a few years ago, there was a person named Rachel Dolezal. You know, Rachel Dolezal was a white woman who basically masqueraded as a black woman, and not only that, but Rachel Dolezal actually like was the chairperson for her local. That's not the right one. Hang on a second. There we go. Her local NAACP chapter. She was like the president of it. So she didn't just like, you know, pretend to be black. She actually like presented herself as black, and then like after it got revealed that she wasn't a black person and that she was born white and that she's just making herself look back to black, she went on and said that she was transracial and tried to compare that to transgenderism, right? Basically saying that transracialism is a new type of thing, just like transgenderism. And that kind of made a lot of people on the left angry because of that, right? Because it's, yeah, a lot of people sort of rejected that. And Rachel Dolezal got a lot of hate, if you remember. This was about 3 years ago, right? So this person, Ollie London, is not pretending that he was, he's not trying to fool anyone into thinking that he was like a native-born Korean person. Says straight out that maybe people, like he basically says, I really love Korea and I've lived there for a few years and all this stuff and I really love this Korean pop star, blah, blah, blah. And now I've got the eye surgery now. And he even says in that article, maybe people will think I'm Korean. Right? So it's not exactly the same thing. Seems to be pretty close. Seems to me that it's like Ollie London for their part is, acknowledging, that they weren't actually born a Korean person. You know what I mean? And that it's a transition, right? But Ollie London has also said that, this is similar to, this is a transracialism. He's basically taken the same route that Rachel Dolezal did, right? And tried to claim that this is like a legitimate transition, right? I think we're done with this. Don't you? I can't really think of anything else to add to it. Yeah, shit. Well, let's just, let's do this here real fast. Because I could try to sign my name on it, but that never works. It always looks like crap, so let's just kind of do MR21. Oh, wait. Let's make that, let's see, go up here. Where are all my fonts at? How come I don't have, alright, there we go. Arial, bold, black. There we go. And let's make that 18 size. Bring that down into the corner. And there. Not bad, don't you think? Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I think we should save that. And then I'll put this up in my DeviantArt thing. And now I think we need to work on something else. So let me see. I don't really think I have anything else ready. I could work on my webcomic, I guess. If you guys want to see me draw my comic. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let me see here if I can download this. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, just download it, please. Okay. And then I think I need to go into File, Open, Downloads. Oh, wait a minute. Will it open that one? Nah, I don't really want to work on that. Let's open up, let's see, downloads. Where's my downloads at? There it is. Okay. Let's open that thing. There we go. Yeah, I guess we can work on this for a little bit until next week. We'll start something new next week. But for now, we'll just sort of You can see this is going to be the next page of my webcomic. There's going to be a big fight. There's ninjas and stuff fighting each other, getting shot in the face, getting their heads chopped off, blah, 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 blah. So this is where we're at. So we'll just kind of like, basically I'm cleaning up the line work right now at this point. Anyway, where were we? Talking about Ollie London. Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of, you know, caused a bit of controversy, you know, and of course there are supporters of Ollie London and there are people who are, you know, extremely angry, saying that you can't just change your race like that. And what draw my attention here is because actually a lot of the same sort of conservative talking head pundits that we were just discussing have actually come out on Ollie London's side. In particular, Ben Shapiro seems to support Ollie London, and then Joe Watts' what's his name? Paul Joseph Watson has come out and supported Ollie London as well. The thing about this is that, you know, first off, you got to remember, people like that never say anything unless it fits their agenda, right? Ollie London is a transracial, non-binary person, right? So if you notice, that's why I'm trying to say they and stuff like that. I'm trying to use the right pronouns, right? It's, you know. So Ben Shapiro and Paul Joseph Watson are usually people who don't support binary, you know, non-binary people, right? They're people who have been on record saying very negative things about people who don't use traditional gender-based pronouns. So, in real life, neither of those people give two shits about Ollie London at all, right? But you'll even notice in this very same article we were looking at here, you know, there's tweets from Ben Shapiro, you know, only bigots disagree, he's clapping, right? He's supporting him, stuff like that, right? And then YouTuber Joe Pasa, you know, Paul Joseph Watson. I like how they say British YouTuber, and they forget to talk about the white nationalist part. Paul Joseph Watson is a white nationalist. The backlash against Ollie London is ignorant and bigoted. If biological men can identify as women, why can't Ollie identify as Korean? Transracial must be added to the LGBT flag immediately. It's time to stop transracial hate. Please remember, this guy is a white nationalist, conservative, you know, basically this dude here, Paul Joseph Watson, is like a fucking incel. I don't know if you've ever, like, actually, like, you know, let's turn that off. If you've actually heard the guy talk or whatever, you know, he's one of these guys that hates feminism. He makes fun of people for having non-gendered pronouns and stuff like that. So he doesn't give two fucks about Ollie London, right? And the only reason why him and people like him are supporting Ollie London is because they think that it, you know, undermines basically transgender arguments, right? That's the entire fucking reason. So, you know, that they think it undermines claims that people who are born with, you know, body dysmorphia and, you know, want to transition to, you know, someone of the opposite sex or whatever, they think that undermines the actual, like treating that as a legitimate, like, medical condition, you know. And it's true. It's because people on the left are reacting very harshly towards claims of you know, transracialism, right? And here's the thing, right? People on the left really tend to not like it because it has a sort of aura of cultural appropriation, kind of, sort of, you know? It's because, you know, being your race is not just your skin color, right? That's actually the conservative view right, of race, the white nationalist view of race, is that it has to do with your ancestry and your phenotype, right? And that's kind of what, basically the conservatives, that's what they want race to only be about. You know, they want it to only be like, what do you look like, right? And what were your ancestors and blah 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 blah, right? You know, and that the, the 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 position of people on the left tends to fall into the way that race is a social construct, which is funny because that's exactly what Rachel Dolezal said, you know, and that's kind of the basis for transracialism. The idea that, well, if race is actually a social construct, right, which it kind of is, then, you know, there should be no barrier to changing one's race, right? And yeah, it is a social construct, but it's also, a shared experience, and there's also a background there, like, um, there's a shared experience of what it means, for example, to be black. Just using that as an example, right? Because it's probably the most prominent example in this country, right? Pretty much, it's kind of undeniable that black people get it the worst in the United States. Other minorities, yes, also get it pretty bad, right? There's plenty of discrimination against Latinos, a lot. Latinos, I think, come in a close second place when it comes to discrimination. I mean, I don't know, maybe they're neck and neck. I can't really say. Um, but there's plenty of discrimination for all minorities. Asians as well. I'm part Asian. I've, you know, recently have not experienced very much in the way of discrimination, but I used to get a lot when I was a kid. I used to get a ton. Right? And I don't know if it's just because my skin's lighter now, because I stay indoors all day, or whether I'm an adult now and people just don't say shit to your face. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just live in a fucking... I do live in loony liberal California where people are cool. Right? People are cool about this kind of thing, and, you don't really see, at least in my area, I don't encounter a lot of that. So, I don't know. I can't speak for all Asian people, obviously. But I can say that, yeah, I mean, in the past I have experienced racism. So, but I think, I think it's pretty safe to say that if I were pulled over by a cop, I wouldn't worry about getting shot. If I were pulled over for speeding, for example, I wouldn't have to worry about the cop beating the shit out of me or shooting me in the back or something because he thought I was reaching for a gun when I was reaching for my wallet. You know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't be a fear that even pops into my head, as someone who's not exactly white. Right. That's not something I have to live with, but something that a black person does, even in Los Angeles, even in loony liberal California, where, we're supposed to be like California's supposed to be a communist hellhole. Haven't you guys been paying attention? Paying attention to Fox News? I'm supposed to be living in, like, a socialist fucking nightmare, Anyway, so I think I might, we could just clean that up just a little bit, just to make this look not as shitty. Okay. See, I actually drew these comics a long time ago, so that's why it's like, well, maybe not a long time ago, but a few years ago. So I want to kind of clean up the line work a little bit before we color it. That's what I'm doing here. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing, right? And this is kind of why, you see people, like, get angry when they see things that they think is cultural appropriation. There was a video a few years ago, if you remember, of a girl that was in a college who was like a sort of a hall monitor, and she was confronting this one white guy that had dreadlocks. I don't know if you remember that video. Kind of became it kind of became a viral thing for a little while, and basically she was like, trying to get this kid to cut off his dreadlocks, and he was basically telling her to fuck off, that kind of thing. And a lot of people got really pissed at that, and they're like, oh, well, you know, your hairstyle's not a race, blah, 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 blah. And that's true. Your hairstyle's not a race, and I think in that particular instance, that girl was wrong, you know, because, you know, you should be able to wear whatever kind of hairstyle you want, in my opinion. It doesn't matter. You know, it's a hairstyle, right? But actually, you know what? I'm going to move that. I'm going to put that over here someplace. But still, that's why people get pissed at stuff like that. That's why, you know, especially if you're a minority that, you know, has traditionally been somewhat oppressed in this country, and you see, like, you know, white people taking on the trappings of your culture and in such a way that you think disrespects it. I can see why people get angry. You know, an example of that would be something like a model in a magazine wearing an Indian headdress. You know, like the chief's headdress, which is supposed to be a sacred thing or whatever, right? You know, that kind of thing. I could see why people, if you happen to be a Native American, you might be really angry at that. You might get really offended at that kind of thing, right? Or like, let's say if you're a Latino or something, and you see a Halloween costume of a guy dressed up like Frito Bandito or some shit, right? I could see why that could piss you off too. It's like a stereotype, right? Like, might get a little angry at that, you know? I think that cultural appropriation can, you know, I think that whole thing is kind of BS for the most part, you know? Like, I think, like, for example, when people get angry at Halloween costumes that are like, you know, like, yeah, okay, maybe you don't dress up like a complete stereotype, but if you wanted to be, for example, a Mexican gunfighter from the Old West or something, you can dress up like that, you know, with a sombrero and bullets and shit, and you can do it in such a way that isn't offensive, you know. Or if you wanted to dress up like a samurai, you know, for example, and you're not Japanese, you should be able to dress up like a samurai. Right? There were, you know, why not? It's a costume. You know, it's like if I wanted to be a ninja, right? Well, I'm actually part Asian, so does that mean I get to dress up in half of a ninja costume? You know what I mean? Like, but I'm actually not part Japanese, so does that mean I just don't get to be a ninja for Halloween ever because I'm not part Japanese? I have to, like, I can only wear costumes that, like, align with my cultural identity. Is that, you know, my cultural history and background? Is that what we're trying to do? You know, I think that's ridiculous. I think you should really be able to, for like a Halloween costume or something, you should be able to dress however you want, whatever you want, you know, for anything. It doesn't matter as long as you do it in such a way that is not offensive to people. You know, that should be fine. In fact, I even think that, for example, a white person should be able to dress up as a black character. You know, like, let's say a white guy wanted to dress up as Black Panther for Halloween. That should be perfectly fine, you know. The way you do it matters. You know, you don't put on blackface, right? But if you got a Black Panther costume from Target or whatever, and it's got the mask and shit, and it's like, why not wear it? You know, there's no law that says you're not allowed to wear a fucking Halloween costume, especially if they're selling it in a fucking, like, retail place. Like, seriously, you know. So there are some people that get pissed at even shit like that. There are people that get mad because, you know, non-Asian people eat at Asian restaurants, for example. There are people that get mad at that. There are people who get mad that you know, anime characters get played by white people in Hollywood movies. You know, Scarlett Johansson plays fucking, you know, what's her name from, you know, Ghost in the Shell, for example. Stuff like that. That kind of shit to me is ridiculous. I think that's stupid as hell. That's not cultural appropriation, right? You know, like, so I don't know. I think that's kind of dumb as fuck, and, like, you should be able to do whatever you want. But does that mean that you should be able to just pretend to be somebody of a different race completely? You know, here's the thing, right? What if, like, because right now, okay, so we see there in that article, that abortion of an article I just showed you guys, right, from that ridiculous website. What if, you know, and you had like the conservatives that were supporting Ollie London, right? Basically using Ollie London for their own purposes. Remember that. They're not really supporting Ollie London, right? They're using them, you know. Because Paul Joseph Watson and Ben Shapiro are people who would take away Ollie London's rights in a nanosecond. So please, everybody, remember that. They're just exploiting this person, right? But would they have come out in support of Ollie London if, let's say, Ollie London were a black person who was trying to transition into being a white person, right? Think about that. What if it was, you know, so what if it was a black person who said, you know what, they went out, they got surgery, they got a nose job, they got white skin bleaching, stuff like that, and then they changed their name to, like, you know, Joe Smith or something, and claimed that they were from Wisconsin and just wanted to be a white person from now on. It says, you know what, from now on I'm identifying as a white person. What do you think the conservatives would say about that? Do you think that they would be supporting them? Hell no. Not in a million years. You would see massive, massive conservative tears over that. And Paul Joseph Watson exactly would go nuts because Paul Joseph Watson is a fucking white nationalist, right? He's a bigoted white nationalist, fucking like incel piece of shit. So, yeah, especially them. I think Ben Shapiro would skirt the line because Ben Shapiro is smart enough to know how to hide his racism. He never actually straight out says anything that you could call racist. He just uses a lot of dog whistles and shit. You know, he's like smart enough to cultivate those people, but not dumb enough to actually get caught doing it. So, actually, that looks like shit. Let's just sort of change that. So yeah, yeah, but still, you know, you wouldn't have seen all of these fucking morons on Twitter and stuff like, you know, they would be, no, it would be like a major fucking problem. And the way we know this is that that's kind of already happened. Good example of a black person transitioning into a white person is Michael Jackson. If you remember Michael Jackson, you know, the excuse, and this is actually like kind of an example here that from, you know, years ago. Michael Jackson got skin lightening treatments. Michael Jackson got multiple surgeries around his eyes and his nose, especially his nose. And I think it's pretty clear to show that Michael Jackson was trying to look like a white person. Right. The claim is that he had a skin disease. Right. I don't know if that's actually true. I wasn't able to find any actual, like, photos of Michael Jackson with that skin disease. It's a very common skin disease where you get blotches all over it, you know, all over yourself, that kind of thing. But even if that was true, you know, there are ways, like, he could have gotten skin treatments that made him look black. He didn't have to get skin lightening treatments in order to you know, reverse that or whatever. So it was, yeah, I think nobody's like, you know, disputing that it was a conscious choice that Michael Jackson like went through all of that surgery and stuff in order to look like a white person. Right? And here's the thing about it. It's like, you know, ultimately, did people reject him for that? Not really. We all called him a weirdo. Everybody said, yeah, he's weird, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's not healthy, that kind of thing. But nobody actually, like, you know, canceled Michael Jackson because of his skin lightening treatments and his surgeries, right? Then again, Michael Jackson never came out and said, I'm transracial. But, yeah, that really wasn't a thing back then, right? But people did give him a lot of shit for it. And that was, you know, there were, I don't know if you guys are, you know, out there remember, there were a lot of jokes about Michael Jackson and his surgeries and his nose jobs, and how he was a black person trying to look like a white person, right? A lot of jokes about that, a lot of bigotry, out there. And, you know, from a lot of people, black and white included. So, yeah, I mean, it's like I don't really see much of a difference there. So, you know, me myself personally, like, if my personal opinion on trans racialism is who gives a shit. That's really my personal opinion. It really doesn't matter to me, you know. I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm actually biracial myself, so it like racial identity is not something that is big in my own personal life, right? I can understand why it would be to certain people, to people who, especially people who have been, you know, who come from groups that are, you know, marginalized in this country. I could see why, like, because that seems to be the thing, like people when people are oppressed, they tend to, they tend to find things in their cultural identity that they can use to draw strength from. You know what I mean? So, for example, if you're a Palestinian or something like that, you know, and you live under like massive oppression, you know, your house is getting blown up, shit like that, and periodic fucking wars and that kind of thing, and you know, basically, you know, extreme state oppression, people tend to double down on who they are. It kind of, you know, your cultural identity can be something that can bring a lot of comfort to people. And it's good to, you know, something that you can feel proud about, right? And I mean, why do you think we have Pride Month in the first place in the United States? Like, where do you think, why is there a Pride Month? You know, it's so that people can feel proud about being gay, you know, instead of feeling ashamed about it, right? You know, why do we have something like, say, you know, like they have, for example, I guess Black History Month, you know, or Black Pride or something like that, right? Why is that like a slogan that people have, you know? Because they want, you know, the whole point behind all that is so that people who are black can, you know, draw strength from their cultural, you know, from that identity, right? From instead of feeling ashamed about it, instead of feeling like, you know, I wish I was born white or something. It's like, well, no, you know, be proud of who you are, right? That's the whole idea behind it. So I could see how when people actually do that, because, you know, when, you know, they feel like they're oppressed or whatever, right? Because they are, you know, and then they see this, someone that they see as a fucking interloper just show up, get a suntan and shit, and then, like, you know, claim that, hey, I'm one of you guys. It's like, no, you don't have the shared experience. You know, you don't, you weren't born like this. You don't know how it is. You're, you know, you're doing it because you think it's cool or something, you know, or whatever. Like, why is this person, Ollie London, you know, trying to become Korean in the first place, right? It's because they like K-pop. That's why, right? Like Ollie London said, like Ollie London is a, you know, non-binary person, right? In that article, it says one of their preferred pronouns is Jimin, right? That's one of their preferred pronouns. It's like you can say they, them, and then Jimin, right? And it's like, well, Jimin is the name of the Korean pop star that they're trying to look like. Like, you know, you can't just like, you know, a pronoun is not somebody's like you can't use like somebody's proper name as a pronoun. I don't know. That sounds a little like bullshit to me? Like it's like if I really wanted to be like George Carlin and I said, "Yeah, I'm, you know, my preferred pronoun is George now." It's like, "No, that's a name. That's not a pronoun." You know? And I could see like, for example, if I was Korean, that might piss me off. It's like, "No, man. You know, you can't just like appropriate somebody's fucking name like that." Like, I don't know, but then again, it's a free country. It's a free country, and a person can be called whatever the hell they want to be called. And if, you know, this person wants to be called Jimin, right? If this person really loves BTS so much that they want to get surgery and look like the lead singer of the band and pretend that they're Korean, you know, and that they were born in Korea and that they're ethnically Korean, and even go so far as to, like, you know, identify as a specific member of the band and say, you know, don't call me he anymore, but you can call me Jimin. I mean, it's a free country. Who am I to say no? And that's the other way to look at it. It's sort of like, you know, okay, you can do whatever you want. I mean, do whatever you want. And, you know, if you want to not be an asshole to this person, then you should call them by the pronouns they want. You know, I mean, I don't know. I think Jimin as a pronoun is kind of pushing it a little far. Am I pronouncing that right? Jimin? I don't know. Anyway, it's all kind of fucked up, and it's like, I don't know, folks. I think really the transracialism thing, you know, maybe give it 20 years, but it might become a little more accepted. You know what I mean? I still think most people think it's bullshit, just on the right and the left as well, and for different reasons. You know, the reasons on the right is because they want they want race to be all about, like, phenotype and shit, because they want, like, you know, because that supports basically their racist views that there are actual differences between the races. And then, you know, from the left, because race is a social construct, you know, and it's like, and but still, like, people on the left are a little pissed off about it because of cultural appropriation, blah blah blah. I don't know. It's really one of those things that, you know, I think that as time goes on, the general attitude of society will change about this. You know, one day there's going to be effective plastic surgery that will be so effective that you won't even be able to tell if somebody was born a man or a woman. Like, if you wanted to go get, like, transgender surgery, one day, you know, maybe within 80 to 100 years or something, right? You'll be able to go in, and it'll be like Star Trek. And you'll just get, like, you know, like, you ever watch that episode of Star Trek where, like, Quark, like, gets gender reassigned in order to like scam this other Ferengi? Like, it'll be like that. You'll just walk in and you'll just get, like, gender reassignment surgery, and it'll look flawless. And I really think by that point you'll be able to do the same thing with, like, other, you know, it'll be the same with, like, say, your race. You know, if you want to go in and you want to look like you're of this certain ethnicity, you know, you'll be able to get the treatments, you'll be able to get the skin lightening, the plastic surgery, and then nobody would even be able to tell the difference. It won't, you know, because plastic surgery now is all fucked up and, you know, weird and puffy and doesn't really look right, you know. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but it's, plastic surgery really looks like shit in my opinion. I don't know. I don't really like it. But, you know, pretty sure that eventually it's going to be utterly flawless and you'll be able to just change your appearance at will. And at that point, it'll just sort of be like, what does all of this shit really mean? What does it really mean to be of a certain ethnicity? What does it really mean to be of a certain race? When you can just go in and you can just change the way you look at any given moment, and nobody will really be able to tell, right? Of course, this will probably only be something that rich people can do, but still, the point being, it's like, it really is all just a social construct, really. Gender, race, all of that shit. It really kind of is. And the way people treat you is basically based on the way you look, you know. I mean, for the most part. You know what I mean? And it's like what it really means is just sort of up to you. You know, do you draw strength and identity from your race and the race of your ancestors, right? Or do you draw it from something a little more personal about what you want to be? Do you aspire to be somebody that happens to be of a different race than you? I don't really see much of a difference there, but just my opinion. I don't know. It's still kind of wacky, in my opinion, though. I don't think I would ever want to do that myself, but whatever. Anyway, kind of talked about that for way longer than I was thinking. I just thought that was I thought that was worth talking about because basically this person is being exploited by the right wing so that they can, like, you know, they can basically score Twitter brownie points. Let's see, one more thing. Let's see, we're at 12:14 here. One last little item I want to talk about for the remainder of the stream. And this is Patriot Front. So we talked about some racism in the Olympics, from discrimination against black people. We talked about trans racialism. Let's talk about some straight up old-fashioned white supremacist racism to end off the stream, right? So, who the hell are Patriot Front? So, well, on this past 4th of July, in Philadelphia, about 150 people showed up and started marching through downtown. White supremacist types. And they were wearing, all wearing the same uniform. They were wearing khaki pants, matching dark blue jackets with flag patches on the sleeve, and baseball caps, and full white face masks, right? Started marching around, screaming a bunch of crap about Reclaim America, and the election was stolen, that kind of thing. And, you know, basically a fucking Klan rally, essentially. These guys were from a group called Patriot Front, who drove all the way out from Texas, apparently, to show up at this thing in Philadelphia on the 4th of July. Their kind of little rally got basically destroyed by counter-protesters. Excuse me. And originally it was supposed to last for 30 minutes, and they kind of got chased out of town. Or it was supposed to last for 3 hours. They got chased out of town after about 30 minutes. So yeah, that shit was hilarious. And that kind of was in the news for a bit. So who the hell are these guys? Who the hell is Patriot Front? You know, it's like, seems like there's all of these like weird populist white nationalist like groups popping up all over the place now. So they are run by a group, by a guy. The hell is this dude's name? I got it here. Blah 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 blah. Hang on one second. A guy named Thomas Rosu, right? And there's about 150 members, or not 150 members, but there's actually hundreds of members in multiple states around the country. So they're kind of becoming one of the larger sort of like white nationalist sort of neo-Nazi fascist groups that are popping up all over the place. They have 42 chapters in Texas and Philadelphia, in Delaware, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, right? So they're kind of starting to spread all over the place. I think they also have a chapter in California too. They go around and recruit people online. They've also been seen putting up stickers in all these various cities, and then going and passing out flyers and stuff at college campuses, that kind of thing. And a little bit about these dudes. They really seem to really not like George Floyd. One of the things they do is they seem to always vandalize any kind of, this is too big, need to make that smaller. They vandalize BLM and George Floyd monuments that go up around the country. So, like, whenever there's a mural or something, or a statue to George Floyd, it'll always get vandalized by these assholes. That seems to be one of their driving fucking, like, forces, you know. So far they haven't murdered anybody, that kind of thing. It seems to be, seems to be sort of like mainly just vandalism and various sorts of like trolling type things, you know, holding rallies, stuff like that. Um, this guy Thomas Rousseau was at the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally back in 2017. And in fact, back in 2017, he was with a group called Vanguard America, and it was that group, Vanguard America, was the group that hang on a second. Let me just read my notes here. I got it all written down. Vanguard America was the group that James Alex Fields was a part of. So James Alex Fields was the guy that at the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, he's the guy that ran over Heather Heyer and killed her. So that's kind of 6 degrees of white nationalist separation there, right? You know, so far, Patriot Front hasn't really seemed to be very violent, but it's like they're sort of people they've been affiliated with have been violent in the past, you know? That's kind of disturbing. A little bit about Vanguard America. So, let's see, where was I here? Blah, 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 blah. So actually, Vanguard America is another sort of splinter group. So this Patriot, God damn it, what the fuck? Patriot Front group split off from Vanguard America, right? Vanguard America is kind of a pretty bad white nationalist, sort of neo-Nazi kind of group. Those are the guys that actually are a little violent, right? They are led by a guy named Dillard Irizarry. 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 I have no idea how to pronounce that shit. This is this guy's last name. Let me just put it in the chat here. Right? See, Irizarry. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that shit. Anyway, yeah, Vanguard America has at least 200 members, and they're in multiple states from Arizona, Washington, California, you know, Maryland, etc. They're all over the place. They're in like at least like 12 states. And they also have a women's division. And just like you know, like all of these groups now, they use things like Discord, you know, and like Telegram and shit like that in order to kind of coordinate with people, stuff like that. It's all online. Vanguard America has some pretty nasty history, you know, and apparently what happened is that after Charlottesville, this guy Thomas Rousseau, tried to like forcibly take over Vanguard America. Apparently went in and like somehow got like, you know, apparently I guess he was like one of the mods on their Discord servers, and he kicked out the other leader, Irizarry or whatever, kicked him out of all the Discord servers and stuff like that, and like basically tried to take over, and Irizarry essentially just fucking like, you know, banned him. Right? So it's always nice to hear when these white nationalist types like eat their own. And that's why, you know, Rousseau went off and took his ball, went home, and got a number of followers and just basically rebranded it into, you know, the Patriot Front or whatever. Right. So as far as I know, they, as far as it looks like they all hate each other, which is great. But they are also part of what's called the Nationalist Front, which is another sort of loosely affiliated group of white nationalist organizations and stuff like that, who kind of like fall all under the same banner. Apparently both of these groups are part of the White Nationalist Front, or the Nationalist Front is what they call it. These guys are the guys who came up with White Lives Matter as a response to Black Lives Matter, which is like, yeah, very imaginative there, I guess. But if you remember, last year there were several sort of White Lives Matter rallies that were in several cities all over the country. These are the guys that organized that. So this dude, the Patriot Front guys, have links to these dudes as well. They came up, they have a subgroup called the Aryan Renaissance Society that came up with White Lives Matter in 2015. So a little, basically last year, if you remember, they started like holding these rallies and stuff for White Lives Matter. They started with one in a town called Shelbyville in Tennessee. That went pretty well for them, I guess. And then they were going to do a second one in another town in Tennessee that got shut down because counter-protesters showed up. And I guess that's kind of the good thing, because it seems like White Lives Matter in particular have been just completely owned by counter-protesters, right? So like Antifa people and anti-racist activists and stuff infiltrated all of their online spaces, essentially, you know, all of their Discord servers, that kind of thing, and were giving them false information. So that last year they tried to hold a bunch of simultaneous White Lives Matter rallies, and nobody really showed up because Antifa people kind of infiltrated all their stuff and gave out false information about where everything was going to be, that kind of thing, right? So it was like, you know, so what ended up happening is that, like, say, you know, maybe about 20 or so actual, like, you know, racist people would show up to the rally, and like, you know, 300 Antifa guys would show up, right? And all of their rallies just kind of crashed and burned. And there's a story here from the LA Times. Let me go ahead and open this up here. LATimes.com, right? And this is one that actually happened a little bit close to me in Huntington Beach here. Huntington Beach exhales after White Lives Matter rally fizzles out. And this is one where they actually show up. A couple of these guys, one of their more successful ones, you know, they had maybe about 25 or so. But surprisingly, also the Proud Boys showed up at this particular rally as well. But way more counter-protesters came, and there were a couple of fights, stuff like that. Here, I'll put this in the... No, fuck you. Okay. I will put this in the chat here if you guys want to read it on your own time or whatever. You know, kind of a good read. You know, it's kind of good to see that there's a lot of you know, pushback, right, on this kind of thing. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, like hundreds of counter protesters came and pretty much to all of these rallies and shut them all down. In New York City, there was another White Lives Matter rally outside of Trump Tower on the same day, and all of one person came to it. So only one guy decided to show up to Trump Tower in order to you know, protest there. That was some funny shit. And then you know, but then more counter protesters came than him, obviously, because he was only there all by himself. So that kind of gives me a little bit of you know, hope here to see that these groups like this are just getting thoroughly owned and are not able to, like, organize effectively, you know. And I guess that makes me feel good. It feels good to show, because that's kind of how you do it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to show up and beat the shit out of people, you know, even though it's like they're Nazis, so fuck them, you know. Who gives a shit if they get punched in the face? But you don't have to. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be violent. You know, you can just, all you got to do is outnumber them, right? And there are other ways that you can disrupt. And this is a perfectly good example. A good way is, you know, some people took it upon themselves to infiltrate their communications and disrupt them and direct them to the wrong places, things like that, you know, create infighting in their groups. And it's highly effective. And these, you know, these fucking goose-stepping morons weren't able to get their shit together, so then they have an event, that nobody goes to, where one fucking person goes to or whatever, and it gets in the news and it makes them look like a bunch of goddamn clowns. Which is like, there you go. That's how you win. You win the propaganda war, number one. Because now everybody that's reading that in the newspaper is going to be like, God, these guys are morons. You know, do I really want to hitch my wagon with these fucking idiots? And like, let's say that you are like, say, somebody who comes from one of these, you know, at-risk groups of becoming an alt-right person. You might think these guys are lame after seeing something like that and being like, yeah, maybe, you might reconsider and be like, maybe what I'm thinking is, if these are the guys that believe this shit, maybe I'm on the wrong track here. You know what I mean? That's one effective way of doing it. Ridicule is a very, very effective weapon. It doesn't always have to be violent. I mean, I think there is a place for violence. I made a video a long time ago called Why I Don't Support Antifa, and I think I kind of take most of that back by now, because I kind of, after what happened last year, after last year of, like, basically fucking almost, the fascists almost fucking took over the country, when we had, like, marches and shit all over the place, when we had, like, Proud Boys showing up and, like, beating up and murdering protesters, when we had, the state sending goons to protests to just grab people off the street without reading them their rights, just throwing them in a van. You remember when that happened? When Donald Trump sent federal officers from various organizations and that kind of thing out to George Floyd protests, and they just started just grabbing people off the street and arresting them, and they wouldn't read them their rights. They would just throw them in a fucking van and drop them off. They wouldn't tell people where they were going. Stuff like that. Like, that's like fucking one step away from like fascist takeover there. And I think people don't really understand like what we lived through. That was basically fascism. This is what we kind of fought against all of last year in these protests, was a fascist police state. Donald Trump. Fucking, I mean, this is like the effect of his like policies, man. Goes out, orders his men to tear gas a bunch of protesters so that he can go hold a Bible upside down. And here's the thing, nobody said shit. It's like, okay, oh, that's bad. Did anybody get held accountable for that? Did anybody get investigated for that? It's not legal to just go brutalize protesters when they are protesting peacefully. It's not supposed to be legal. The police are not supposed to be able to just say, hey, we're shutting down this protest. They're supposed to have a reason. They're supposed to be able, they're supposed to only be able to do it to declare something an unlawful gathering if it's getting violent, if it starts turning into a riot, not if it's just people standing there, not hurting anything, not destroying anything, just marching or something like that. Even if they don't have a permit, even if you just like show up and you don't have a permit on a place, they can't just be like, this is an unlawful. No, there has to be danger to like people or property. That's what it's supposed to be. In real life, that's not how it works. In real life, it's like, the president wants to go here for a photo op, so the cops start tear gassing everybody. Right. That's how it really, and this is, so, and these are the kind of people that are aligned with that, this Patriot Front group, if they had the state power in order to, suppress people they don't like, they would do it in a nanosecond. Don't mistake it, this is what the anti-fascists are fighting against. These sorts of fascist movements, right? And so yeah, I think I take back my old video, most of it. I still think that violence should only be used in self-defense, though. Right? I don't think you should just show up and just start beating Nazis, even though they're Nazis and fuck them. But still, I don't think that's right. You shouldn't just show up and just start kicking the shit out of people for no reason, But you should be able to go counter-protest, and if a fucking Proud Boy punches you in the face, then in my opinion, you got free reign to beat the crap out of his fucking snotty ass, you know, because he hit you first. That's what I really think. I think it should be really self-defense only in response to, in response to violence being done upon you. That should really be it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess, because there are people that do punch first, and that's like, you get these black bloc guys that go around and, break windows and shit like that, and they don't have any problem punching first. I really can't condone that myself, but it's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like you still got to kind of take the moral high ground. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way I see it. I can't be the instigator of violence. I can't support being the instigator, but I can understand that there is a place for violence when it comes to this sort of thing, And I think we were almost there. That's the scary fucking part. I think I think our country was really close, and I think a lot of people don't really understand how close it actually was to like a fucking full-on fascist takeover. Shit, we had these people assaulting the fucking Capitol trying to stop the election, for crying out loud. And, a lot of these sort of like white nationalist group guys were actually there during that as well. There were fucking, Proud Boys at that, and there were 3%ers and that kind of thing. It's like, these guys were involved in that shit. You know what I mean? So, the time for sort of pussyfooting around is like over. And just because, the Democrats won the election last time doesn't mean that's it. And they're gone. That's not true at all. They're going to be back. They're going to be back because Donald Trump's going to run again, and if he's not in prison or dead, hopefully he'll just drop dead of a heart attack or something before he runs for president. I mean, he is getting kind of old, but still, they'll be back, dude. And it's going to be just as bad as it was in 2016. And this time they're going to come out in force. They're going to come out in force, Remember during 2016 at Trump rallies, it was all this big deal because they would basically his supporters would just start attacking people that try to protest at his rallies, And before that, this kind of thing would happen. Like, say at a Bush rally, somebody would get kicked out because they were wearing an anti-Bush T-shirt. That's what used to happen. It used to be like, oh, this guy over here, somebody would unfurl end the war banner or something at a Bush rally, like when Bush was running for re-election. And, they would get kicked out and it would be in the news and they'd be like, oh, right. But you didn't see straight up brawls happening at Bush rallies, right? There weren't just people straight up fucking attacking people, punching each other in the face, shit like that. This is what you saw at Trump rallies. Somebody would show up and I remember even a couple of instances where the person was a Trump supporter and they just happened to be black and Latino or something, and somebody thought they were protesting, and they would get their asses kicked. They would get their asses kicked and dragged out a couple of times. In fact, I remember watching a video of a woman, a Latino woman, who was like, but I didn't do anything and I'm a Trump supporter, and they kicked her out because somebody thought that she was that she was a protester, right? That's these people are not above, using violence in just that small little way like that. Think about that. Just think about, that mentality that if I don't like you, you don't belong here. I'm justified in physically assaulting you to remove you, right? Think about that mentality, If, for example, a bunch of Trump supporters showed up at a Bernie rally, for Bernie Sanders or something, and they started chanting their stupid shit and wearing their red hats, whatever, do you think the Bernie Sanders supporters would start kicking the shit out of them? Or punching them in the face, stuff like that, dragging them out? Do you think Bernie Sanders would stand up and just be like, punch him in the face, get him out of here, and I'll pay the legal bills? Trump actually said that shit. You remember, it's this is what we were dealing with in, that era. It's not over. It's still going. They tried to, it's like I think they're just sort of waiting for an excuse, you know. The Trump people, especially now because he lost and they're all pissed off and they're all in denial. You know, you get all this shit about how he's supposed to come back to fucking power next month, like, you know, supposedly on the what was it, on August 13th. That's when Donald Trump is going to do his military coup or whatever, which is obviously not going to happen. Right? Like all of this shit. So they're really like kind of, you know, they're in denial and they're sort of like a cornered rat. You know what I mean? And when you get a cornered rat, like it'll start biting. Like, you know, that's kind of what's going on here. Like, actually, that line should not be there. Eh, you know what? Actually, yeah, it kind of looks good. All right, let's just leave that. Let's just leave it like that. If you can't tell, it's like half of his head got chopped off. So that's what's. My comics are very gory and bloody, and people getting their heads chopped off and shit like that. But you know, they're demons, so demons are allowed to die in very gory ways. So yeah, just this is just stuff to keep in mind and to be aware of, and you know, even when it's just like some little pissant group of, you know, of fucking like surrender trolls show up and get run out of town, you know, it's something to be aware of. It's like they're gonna be back. They're gonna be back in 2 years, or what, 3.5 years, I guess, for the next election. They're gonna be in force, and it's just, you know, beware, man, beware. Keep yourself safe and be vigilant. And you know, maybe we need more people like the people who infiltrated these groups and fucked up their rallies. You know, that's like, I commend those people, man. Those people are awesome. Whoever did that, the activists who prevented these rallies from happening. Those guys are the true MVPs. Anyway, wanted to talk about that too. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of the you know, comments from you guys here. It's about what, 12:40? Okay, so we got about 20 minutes left in the stream. Let's read some comments from some people here. All right. Lewis the Hedgehog. You know, the Earth is not doomed yet. We can remove carbon dioxide 400 times better than trees with algae we can also use to make fuel. You know, I heard about that very briefly. Like, I think I saw like a very, very short YouTube video about that. Which, that sounds kind of promising, you know. If that's something that they can like instigate on a wide scale to like start removing carbon from the atmosphere, and then like, so then you can like burn the side product of that, right? Like the algae sort of creates this sort of waste product that we can burn as fuel. That's kind of fantastic. And that's kind of what we need, you know what I mean? Like, I think you're right. Like a technical solution like that is something we can get behind. You know what I mean? And the reason for that, sadly, is because capitalism, right? Like, if it's a technical solution that a company can make money from, then it'll happen. You know what I mean? And that's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that the human race cannot really get together and work in a collective way with, you know, for just the sake of their own survival. But they will do it if they can make a shitload of money. So, but you know what? I don't care. I just want the Earth to not melt. So I'm fine with that. You know, I don't give a shit if somebody makes money when they clean up the Earth and save the atmosphere or whatever and stop the Earth from melting. I'm perfectly happy to give them money to do that, as long as the shit gets done. That's my position right there. So I'm all for it, you know. And fuck, I hope they get that shit going soon, because we need it, dude. It's 90 degrees in my room right now. Actually, no, it's 88 degrees, but still, that's pretty fucking hot. And it's not even August yet. So, you know, shit is heating up out there, man. You know.
Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog. Algae farming requires more R&D though to be profitable. Not that profit matters more than saving the world though. Yeah, yeah, that's true. But still, I mean, let's do it. Let's do it, man. I'll invest into that. Seriously, like, you know, where do I sign up, man? Where do I buy some stock in that? I'll do it in a I'll pay some money for that shit. Like, let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog, what happened to your computer? My computer, I have a desktop out in my living room, and it's kind of a piece of shit. So, I really need a new computer. It sucks. This one, my wife got a new one, and then this is like her old computer, but this computer works better than my own personal computer, so this is why I'm using it back here. So, I know, I'm just lazy. I need to just get around to just buying a new computer. You know, I think I need something a little more modern because this thing is like a few years old now, and it seems to work for the most part for what we're using it for, just to like stream and you know do some artwork and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I really do need to like just invest in some stuff for the streaming in general. You know what I need? I need a microphone. That's what I need. I think I might buy that first because the audio on my streams here really needs some improvement. Let's see. Moving on. Lewis the Hedgehog. Some Sonic fans are some of the most pathetic people I've ever seen. Sonic is always fighting for freedom. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's see. However, I normally say as long as they are not spamming people with fetish content, they should not be complaining. But in this case, they are, so maybe it crosses a line. Um, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about conservative websites. So the whole reason why this Getter thing came out is because they're trying to create the MAGA version of Twitter. You know, because conservatives like to bullshit you people into thinking that they stand for free speech when they really don't. They really honestly do not stand for free speech. I mean, as we've just seen, Gwen Berry, you know. So they like free speech when you say the shit that they like. And when you don't like the things they say, they want to kick you out. They want to cancel you. They want to kick you off the Olympic team, for example, for not for using your free speech to say something negative about the country. Right. So this, I think, is a good lesson to them because if they really believe in free speech, then they should not be banning these Sonic the Hedgehog fetish people from their phony baloney Twitter ripoff. You know, and I guess for the most part they haven't. They shouldn't be complaining. It's like, hey, it's my free speech. If I want to use my free speech to post Sonic the Hedgehog foot fetish pics, who the fuck are you to stand in my way? I thought this was America. So it kind of forces them to admit that no, the company also has free speech, and the company has the right to use their free speech to stop other people from using their platform, like every other company. That's what Twitter's doing, and that's what Facebook is doing when they kick Donald Trump off of their platforms. Because, a company has a right to police their platform and not be associated with people they don't like. So, Getter has all of the right in the world to go around and start banning people for posting, Sonic pregnancy pics or whatnot. And I think it's probably only a matter of time before they start doing it. You know, I mean, if it's your platform, you have the right to ban anybody for any reason. It's yours. You know. Now it is abusive and stuff if you ban somebody for the color of their skin or something. That's different. There are laws against that. You're not allowed to ban people for shit that is a protective class. But speech is not a protective class. You know what I mean? If you say something that the private corporation that runs that platform doesn't like, no matter what it is, they have a right to get rid of you. That's just kind of how it works. They have a right to kick you off, even if it's shit that you think is innocuous, or things you think that you don't have a right to use their platform. It's the same way, like if you go into a Walmart and you start screaming and yelling and hollering about how Walmart sucks and how it's run by space aliens or some shit like that. Walmart security has the right to kick you out of Walmart. They don't have to host you at all. And guess what? You can stand right outside of Walmart and scream all of your like stuff that you want, and they can't do a goddamn thing. In fact, you can go into another grocery store. You can go into Target or Gemco or Zodi's or whatever, if those places even exist anymore. I don't think they do. And you can use somebody else's fucking platform, right? That's just how it is. Anyway. Let's move on. Blah, blah, blah. Tony Johnson. Let's start with the border. Sorry, Tony. What are you talking about? Start with the border? Oh, you mean like the border of the, Oh, yeah, because we were looking at the Daily Mail, and the border of the screen was all fucked up. Yes, I know. Yeah, that's kind of like, ugh. Headache. How do people read that? Do people even ever actually read that shit? I wouldn't go to that site, if I wasn't researching things, or trying to find examples of news articles. Like, I wouldn't go there at all. Like, just looking at all that, it's fucking headache inducing. Let's see. Danacat loves me. Since race isn't really a thing, transracialism is also probably not a thing. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the dig there, right? Like, if race is a social construct, then why is it so wrong for somebody to want to change their race? And I think the answer kind of lies with the shared experiences that people have as being a part of someone, part of a particular race. You know what I mean? Like just because you change your skin color, and you get your hair dyed, and you get surgery to make yourself look black, that doesn't mean that you're black, because you haven't lived the life of a black person. Kind of the same way, like, just because if you really want to be Asian, and you change all of your face and everything, it's like, like this kid really wants to be Korean, but is he really Korean just because he looks Korean? Or, because his face has been changed to look Korean. Then again, if you move to Korea, right, because, Korean isn't really a race, it's more of a nationality, right? If you just move there and you live there and you become a Korean citizen, you can claim to be Korean. Why does it have to be the way you look? You know what I mean? Like, so there's still a lot of open questions there. It's like, nationality is not exactly the same thing as a race. You know what I mean? Like, is race tied to nationality? Like, do you have to look like an Asian person to be Korean? Like, it doesn't really... It seems like that person, Ollie London, they seem to have more of a obsession with a certain member of that pop group rather than trying to be a Korean person. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like especially, and the clue that I get there is the the pronoun Jimin. Am I pronouncing that right? Jimin. They want their pronoun to be this guy's first name. That's the clue to me that says, okay, this person is sort of really, really kind of unhealthily obsessed with a particular person. And I think if that person, Jimin, let's say that person was white, then Ollie London wouldn't be going through all of this shit to look Korean. You know what I mean? Or if that person was, like black or like Latino or something, then Ollie London would probably be getting like surgery to look Latino. That's what I think. So I think it has more to do with like some kind of starstruck kind of thing, obsession with like a certain person, and not so much with like, the race and ethnicity of Korean people. I don't know. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog. I'm a trans realist. I like to feel like I was born in the wrong reality. Aren't we all? Yeah. Have you ever watched So there's a subgenre of anime now, and I'm not really sure what it's called, but it's sort of like a subgenre where people die and get reincarnated as video game characters. And there's a show I'm watching right now called I Was Reincarnated as a Slime, you know, and it's sort of like a guy gets stabbed to death and then he wakes up and he's like a little slime character from like Dragon Quest or something like that. And there's sort of like this like subgenre now. There's a couple of them. There's like another one about a girl that gets reincarnated as a witch and then like that kind of thing, and um, another one they're like a guy that gets reincarnated as like this sort of like hero fighter guy, you know. And it kind of got me thinking about that, like, you know, if you were born in a different reality, like what if you woke up tomorrow and you were inside of like say World of Warcraft or something? Like if you could choose whatever reality that you would live in, like let's say if you could like live in like the Rick and Morty universe or like the Star Trek universe or like the Super Mario universe or something, like if you could do that, like if you could choose the reality you lived in, like which one would you want to live in? And I don't know. I'm not really sure which one I would want to if I had that power. If I had the power to just like reincarnate myself and live in a different like fictional universe. Not really sure where I'd want to live. I think I'd want to live in a place where like would it be high technology or magic? Either one of those two. I don't know which one would be cooler. Would it be cooler to have a spaceship and like teleporters and stuff like that and holodecks, or would it be cooler to be like to have magic powers like Harry Potter and like transform things and be able to fly on a broomstick? Like I don't know, kind of still you know, or maybe a place where you had both of those, like in the Marvel comics where everything goes and you could just do anything. Which one would be cooler if you had the ability to actually transform your reality like that? I don't know. I don't know what I'd choose. Probably something where I could fly around, like Superman. That'd be awesome. Anyway, kind of a dumb question. Let's move on. Sorry, not a dumb question, but a dumb answer from me. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog. I'm waiting until the day when evolution allows us to change our skin color like a chameleon. Yeah, I think we'll be able to do that just through normal kind of surgery, like you know, maybe 200 years from now. Like I think you'll be able to go into like a tattoo parlor and not just get like a tattoo, but you'll also be able to get like genetic like, you know, enhancements, like you'll be able to go into a place and get like you know, the color of your eyes changed, or not even that, like you'll be able to get like say chameleon skin or like fly suckers on your feet so you can walk on walls, stuff like that, you know, or a tongue that shoots out like a frog. Like I think like eventually, you know, maybe 200 years you'll be able to go in and they'll be able to just implant DNA in you, and you'll be able, and it'll just be like getting a tattoo. And then, you know, if you don't want that anymore, then you could just go back the next day and get like feathers instead of hair or something, or get bird wings or like, you know, whatever. And then you can only kind of imagine all the like the crazy like, you know, goth fetish clubs are going to be like when everybody could just get any kind of like animal trait that they want. It's going to be crazy. You know, see, we were born too early, man. You know, we should have been born 200 years from now when all of these problems are solved and you can just do anything you want through the magic of technology. I don't know. Maybe I should like, I don't know, gotta invent that time machine. Anyway, let's see. Dynacat Loves Me. That was Portland. My theory is that it was about Intel. They wanted to crack the ANIFA hierarchy, but never found any signs of any hierarchy. Oh yeah, yeah. You're talking about in Portland when they were just snatching people off the streets. Yeah, they did it in Portland. I think they did it in a couple of places, but Portland was the big one because that's where all of the you know, protests. Like Portland had just daily protests for like, you know, something like 3 months straight or something like that. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there is no hierarchy for Antifa. Antifa is not an organization in the same way that these white supremacist organizations are. They don't. There is no leader. You know, Antifa is a very much a homegrown kind of organic, decentralized thing. And I think they kind of do that on purpose. They do it on purpose because if you have a leader, then to your organization, then all you have to do is arrest that leader, and the organization kind of falls apart. And that was one of the things. Like, plus also Antifa is very like supposed to be like a socially democratic thing. So they make decisions and you know they take votes to make decisions and stuff like that. You know, so you don't have just somebody dictating what you're supposed to do. Like, it's not run by just one person. So let's see what else. Daddy Cat. Well, where guns are involved, I do advocate shooting first. Oh, talking about yeah. Well, see that's when that kind of gets to that point, it gets a little iffy, right? So, are you justified in shooting someone if you know they're going to shoot you first? You know, then you get that kind of like first strike kind of you know, doctrine going. You see that a lot like when like a war starts and one side attacks the other side, it's because they know the war is going to start, and so they basically say, well, if we don't attack first, you know, then they're going to get the drop on us. So it's sort of like, is that considered self-defense? I don't know. I mean, I can understand that. I understand the reasoning behind that. Um, Myself, I still can't advocate that, though. You know, I still can't, like, justify it to myself. Like, I don't think I would do that. I think I would take all the precautions I could, you know, but it's sort of like if you allow somebody to shoot first, then you can, that's it, you're dead. So, are you justified in striking first if you know that an attack is imminent? I guess so. I guess if you know that an attack is imminent, if you know, for example, a bunch of guys are coming to your house and they're going to kill you, and they've warned you and they're on their way, and then they show up outside of your house and then you shoot at them, I think that's justified, for example. You know what I mean? Like, they're there to kill you. You know they're there to kill you. They've surrounded your house, right? But let's say in this scenario it was something like a couple of days before and some guys have threatened to kill you. So you go around to their houses and you kill all of them first. Is that justified? I don't know. I think really you have to be in danger. You know what I mean? I guess in order for it to be like morally, like, to me at least. I don't know. I wouldn't put anybody down, for example, if they were at a protest and there was a guy with a gun and they pulled out their gun and they shot that guy, like, because they thought that guy was going to shoot them. You know what I mean? I couldn't really put anybody down for that. All I could really say is, like, you know, that's what happens when you're in these situations. When shit escalates, and you should try your best to keep things from escalating, I guess. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Let's see. Tiny Cat Loves Me. You know, I'm pretty sure the top Democrats have the idea that they want to run against Trump again, and so they won't prosecute him. Yeah, I think that's a mistake. You know, I think you're probably correct because they figure that, you know, we beat him once, we can beat him again. Like, we know the formula and how to beat him. But I don't know, man. I think we should not underestimate Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like, people thought when he was running that he was a joke. You know, if you remember, you know, his first like event, he like fucking paid people to show up. Like his first event where he you know, announced that he was running. He paid guys to stand there and cheer for him, like $50 each. That was their thing. So, and then a year later, he's fucking like the president. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't underestimate him. Like, and all throughout the time that he's running, and all through his rallies and stuff, and then like everybody thought it was a joke, and he's no way he's gonna win. There's no way he's gonna win, you know. And he had the fucking debates with Hillary Clinton, and she just fucking godsmacked his ass. You know, in the debates, she just like ran circles around him, and he looked like a complete moron and a buffoon, and he was like standing behind her, like trying to intimidate her and shit like that, and they like made fun of it on Saturday Night Live. Stuff like that, like throughout the whole campaign in 2016. Like, I really thought he was gonna get stomped. You know what I mean? Like when the election, like all the way through it, like I have videos of it where I'm like laughing at him. Back, if you look at some of my videos from 4 years ago, where I'm just laughing at Donald Trump and his pathetic fucking like. I thought he was gonna get God stomped. I thought when the election happened, it was just gonna be like a fucking trouncing of biblical proportions. And then he fucking wins, right? Then he wins, and it's like, what the fuck? And then you should have saw it coming. That's the thing, because his people were fanatical as hell, you know, and he really did tap into that kind of white racist bigoted underpinning, and you had people like saying shit like then when he's president you had like his base people would go to his rallies and they'd be like, well, I don't want a dictator, but if we're gonna have one, I'm glad it's you. Shit like that. That's an actual quote that some fucking woman said at his one of his rallies, one of his Q&As, right? I'm glad it's you. If you're gonna be a dictator, I'm glad it's you. Shit like that. And it's like, god damn, these people are fanatical, and yeah, it's died off a little bit. It's died off because he's not on Twitter every day. I really do think that all the social media really magnified his message a lot. You know what I mean? And he wouldn't have been like half as popular as he is now, because if he didn't have Twitter, for example, I think he probably would have lost the election. You know what I mean? Like if he didn't have social media, kind of just social media algorithms just feeding his bullshit to people every single day, where you can just like go in like a drug and get your daily Trump fix. Like we've seen his popularity has fallen after that. After they finally kicked his ass off of Twitter and kicked him off of Facebook and all this other shit, and he can't like daily tweet stuff and keep himself in the news. His popularity has gone down. Even though he's still incredibly popular with Republicans right now, it's starting to falter out. There was a poll for the 2024 nominee. They did a straw poll in God, where was it? Straw poll and I think it was in like um fucking Oregon or something like that, and like Ron DeSantis came out in front. I don't know, one of the recent conservative straw polls where they were talking about the election and who's going to run, and it was like Ron DeSantis actually beat Trump, and that was like a surprise to everybody. And I think that's because Trump has not been doesn't have the advantage of a daily social media machine just hyping him up constantly. I really think that's it. And if he manages to get back on Twitter and Facebook, then his popularity is going to go back up, you know. But anyway, I don't know, man. I think we should not underestimate him. When he runs again, which he's going to, you know, I think we really should not underestimate Donald Trump this time. And I don't know. Hopefully, the media learn their fucking lesson, because also another thing that would happen is like they gave him so much free media time that it really was incredibly unbalanced, you know. CNN would do shit like CNN would cut away, like they'd show Hillary Clinton talking, and then they would cut away from her and to a Trump rally, and Trump wouldn't even be there, and they'd be broadcasting pictures of his podium where he wasn't even there yet. You know what I mean? And it would be like 5 minutes of an empty Trump podium, you know. So yeah, I think this time if the media doesn't like also give him like fucking $1 billion worth of free airtime or whatever the fuck like they did last time, he'll probably not do as well. They'll probably lose. So, But I don't know. I would much rather not have to deal with him at all. And I'd much rather, like, you know, hope that just pretty much any other fucking Republican runs. You know, somebody like Ted Cruz or something. We could fucking annihilate Ted Cruz. I hope he wins. Ron DeSantis. We could destroy Ron DeSantis. I don't know, but then again, what if Ron DeSantis wins the election? I don't know. I hope not. So it's kind of, you know, kind of scary either way. But anyway. Let's see. Okay, guys, I think I need to go ahead and end this. It's been 2 hours. Thank you all for listening to me rant and rave like a lunatic for 2 hours. Let's go back to that other thing. So this is just my webcomic that I'm working on. Let's just save that. And let's go to open recent. Let's open up our Goofy Monsters one more time so we can take a look at it. I think it looks pretty good. Don't you? You know? I think we got, yeah, not bad at all. So I'll put this up on my my DeviantArt site if you guys want to see it. In fact, you know, we can do that right now. Let's just kind of, first off, let's close this guy back here. Let's close that. Let's go up here. Oh, wait, no. Hang on. Wrong. There we go. No. That's supposed to... There we go. Okay. It's supposed to fill the whole space. Let's save this for web. And then... Okay, save for web. Thank you. And then let's save that. And let's save that one up here. Let's call that Goofy Monsters. Alright. And then we can actually go into my thing here. So, hey, this will be a good time for me to go into my ending speech here. Thank you guys for sticking around and, you know, listening to me rant and rave like a lunatic for 2 hours. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog. It's great to see you as always. Thank you. Thank you, Dinah Cat. Good to see you as well. Tony Johnson, thank you for also coming. And Adversary Fandon, great to see you guys so much. And if you want to see more of my artwork, you can see me on DeviantArt. This is my DeviantArt site. I'm about to put my artwork that we just did up here. Let me refresh this. I've been putting lots of these little sculptures and things. I make these little sculptures like this as well. I'm going to start selling these. So I'm putting lots of pictures of this kind of stuff up right now, you know. But I also put my comics, and I also put all the things that we draw while we're streaming. I put all those up here. So if you want to check out more of my artwork here, you can see it down on my DeviantArt site there. And if you want to support me, I do have a Patreon. It is at patreon.com/Hawanja. So, you know, and I do want to give my shout out to my Patreon guy, Joseph there. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it. And if anybody else wants to join, here are my rewards here. I'll leave that there for you guys to read later. I do also have a SD shop, so if you want to support me and you don't want to make it a recurring... oh, wait a minute. In fact, I could just drag this over. You don't want to make it a recurring thing, you can just buy something on SD from me. I'm going to start putting those little parasite things I make up here too, so those will be here as well. But I do print stuff like that. You can see this one's kind of popular. This is a Lovecraft character, you know. So if you want to support me and give me money, but not through Patreon, please consider buying something from my SD shop. Let me just go ahead and put that down in the thing. And then I also have a webcomic. This is what we were working on today. The next page of my webcomic, it's going to be the big fight. There's ninjas, there's demons, stuff like that. This is at hawanja.com. Fun for the whole stupid family. And finally, if you want to see me talk about stuff that is not politics, if you want to see me play with toys and talk about movies and do, you know, movie unboxing or toy unboxings and video game streams and stuff like that, you can check me out on UCD Videos for all of your non-political content and goofy pop culture stuff. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you all coming. every week like this. It's really great. It means a lot to me. And, you know, this is great. I love doing this. I love doing this, you know, even though I'm a very small channel and, you know, I don't really make any money doing this. Not really, but still, it's great. It's good to know that there are people out there that like what I do and like, you know, I like sharing my artwork with you guys. I really appreciate it. And, you know, I also appreciate you listening to me and my ranting and raving and my old man opinions. Thank you all so much. You guys are great. I really, really appreciate it. And I will be back next week at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So, thanks you guys so much. I'm out of here. Adios.